I still remember the sound of the rain that night. It wasn't just falling. It was hammering, like the sky itself was furious at me. The paramedic's voice was distant, muffled by the chaos in my head. "Ma'am, you need to stay still. You've been in shock." Shock. That word couldn't even begin to explain what it felt like to watch my husband's car wrapped around a light pole, the backseat crushed like a tin can. Inside were my 2 children, Lily and Noah. My entire world had been reduced to twisted metal and sirens. Hours later at the hospital, I sat in a hallway that smelled of disinfectant and despair. My hands trembled as I dialed my parents' number, the only people I believed I could still lean on. My mother picked up on the second ring. "Mom," I sobbed, my throat raw. "It's Daniel. And the kids. They're gone. Please come." There was a long pause. Then I heard laughter, faint, but real. "Honey, it's Jessica's birthday today," she said casually. "We're about to cut the cake." I blinked, thinking I'd misheard her. "Mom, did you not hear me? Daniel and the kids, they're dead!" But her voice didn't waver. "I know, sweetheart. That's terrible. But today is your sister's day. You can't expect us to just ruin it for her." My world froze. The laughter in the background felt like knives against my skin. Then came my father's voice, cheerful and detached. "Clara, listen to your mother. We'll come tomorrow. Today's not the right time for bad news." Tomorrow, as if grief could be rescheduled. I hung up before they could finish their cake. That night, I buried my face in Daniel's jacket, still smelling faintly of his cologne, and made a silent promise. I would never forgive them. People think time dulls pain. It doesn't. It only teaches you how to hide it better. The world kept spinning. Neighbors stopped leaving casseroles at my door. The insurance company called about final paperwork, and the house felt colder with every sunset. Then one morning, I opened my email and saw something that stopped me cold. It was a news alert from the Daily Gazette. Local widow receives $5 million settlement in fatal highway case. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone, not even my parents, about the settlement. I hadn't wanted their pity or their attention. But somehow, within hours of that article going live, my phone began to buzz like a hive. First Mom, then Dad, then Jessica. I ignored them all. That evening, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, Mom stood there with a bouquet of lilies, the same kind I'd held at my children's funeral, the one she hadn't attended. "Clara, honey," she said softly, as if nothing had ever happened. "We've missed you." I stared at her. "You missed me? You couldn't even come to the funeral." Dad appeared behind her, his tone rehearsed. "We made a mistake, sweetheart. We thought—" I cut him off. "No, you chose. You chose Jessica's birthday party over my family's funeral." He sighed. "You're being dramatic. Jessica's turning 25. It was important to her." I felt something inside me snap. For months, I'd imagined this confrontation, how I'd cry, maybe even yell. But instead, my voice came out cold, steady. "You're only here because of the settlement, aren't you?" Their silence was all the answer I needed. I thought that would be the end of it, that they'd storm off, offended, and leave me alone again. But the next week, strange things began happening. It started small. My mailbox left open, envelopes missing. Then my attorney called. "Clara, someone's been trying to access your trust account," he said. "They had your maiden name, your old address, even your social security number." I froze. Only family could know those details. I knew exactly who. That night, Jessica called me for the first time in months. Her voice was syrupy sweet. "Clara, I heard about the settlement. That's amazing news." "You deserve it, sis. I'm just struggling with bills right now. You know how the salon's been going under." I let her talk, pretending to listen. But every word confirmed it. She'd been fishing. When I finally spoke, my tone was sharp enough to cut through her performance. You're not getting a cent. Jess, not after what you all did. There was a pause. Then her voice turned cold. You're still holding that over us? God, you're pathetic. No wonder, Daniel. Finish that sentence, I whispered. But she didn't. She hung up. Days later, I found something slipped under my door. A birthday invitation. Jessica's again. The same date my husband and children had died. Under her perfect cursive name was a note. Family sticks together. You'll come this time, won't you? I almost tore it apart. But then something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the anger. Maybe it was the ghost of my old self whispering that I'd let them get away too long. Whatever it was, I decided to play along. I RSVP'd yes. The night of the party, I dressed in black. Not mourning, control. The kind of color that absorbs every light, every lie. When I arrived, their mansion looked exactly like it always had. Too bright, too loud, too fake. Jessica squealed when she saw me, hugging me for the cameras. Oh my God, Clara's here, she announced like it was a charity event. Mom's eyes darted toward the guests. Smile, honey. People are watching. I smiled, but I was already a step ahead. Earlier that week, I'd met with a journalist, the same one who broke the settlement story. I gave her everything, old texts, voicemails, even my father's cruel response from the night of the accident. And tonight, that story was going live. The headline would read, "Family that abandoned widow for party now demands share of $5 settlement." As the champagne flowed and Jessica blew out her candles, I stood in the corner, phone in hand, waiting. At 8:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. The story was live. At 8:45, Mom's phone started ringing. By 8:46, every guest was staring at their screens. Whispers spread like wildfire. Did you see this? Is that true? Oh my God, her own parents? Mom's face went pale. Dad tried to grab my arm. What did you do? I stepped back, calm and unshaken. What I should have done 6 months ago, I said. Told the truth. Jessica's eyes darted wildly. You ruined us. No, I said. You did that yourselves. I turned and walked out, leaving behind the sound of their perfect world collapsing. The next morning, my lawyer called again. Clara, I hope you're sitting down. The hospital foundation read your story. They want to name a children's recovery wing after your kids, Lily and Noah. For the first time in months, I cried. Not from pain, but from something like peace. I posted one photo online, the last family picture of me, Daniel, and the kids, all laughing at the beach. The caption was simple. For the ones who never came back, and the ones I finally walked away from. Within hours, the post went viral. Thousands of messages flooded in, from strangers, from other widows, from people who knew what it meant to be abandoned by those who were supposed to love you most. My parents tried to call again. I didn't answer. Some things once broken shouldn't be fixed. It's strange how silence can become your ally once you stop fearing it. The house still echoes with memories, but they don't hurt like they used to. I've learned to fill the quiet with new sounds, the hum of my coffee maker, the soft rustle of morning wind, my own breathing steady and alive. People sometimes ask me if I regret what I did. I don't. Because that night, when I walked away from my family's lies, wasn't just an ending. It was the first time I'd chosen myself. And that, I realized, was the moment my life truly began again. The silence after I walked out of that house still rings in my memory like the echo of a slammed door that refuses to fade. For weeks, I kept replaying every word, every trembling glance, every truth that spilled out under the weight of 5 years' worth of sacrifice. You think release feels like freedom, but sometimes it feels like falling, suddenly weightless, yet unsure where the ground has gone. The night I left, I didn't drive home. I drove nowhere. The car moved, but my mind stayed behind in that small, suffocating living room, watching my mother's face crumple as the truth finally sank in. Her voice still trembles in my head. I didn't realize. The problem was she had realized. Maybe not the numbers, not the totals, but she'd known the cost. She just never thought I'd send the bill. It took months to find steady ground again. My therapist called it detoxing from guilt. I called it remembering how to breathe. I rented a tiny apartment above a florist, the air always smelling faintly of lilacs and soil. I told myself it was temporary, a waiting room before life began again. But sometimes temporary things become the only spaces where you can finally think. The first sign that the past wasn't done with me came in an envelope. No return address, just my name written in familiar cursive, my mother's. Inside was a photograph. The old house, the front porch light burning. In the bottom corner, a single word, help. I stared at that photo for a long time, my hands shaking. Part of me wanted to tear it up, throw it in the trash, block the number I knew would call next. But another part, the same one that once checked Mom's vitals in the middle of the night, the same one that said no to Denver, refused to ignore it. Love, even when betrayed, is a stubborn thing. 2 days later, I found myself parked outside the house again. The lawn was overgrown, paint peeling along the trim. The same wind chime I'd bought years ago still hung by the porch, tangled and mute. I hesitated at the gate, wondering if I was walking into another trap. Another guilt play, another chance for them to twist my care into currency. But the light in the window flickered like a weak pulse, and my chest tightened. When I knocked, it wasn't Mom who answered. It was Tessa. Her face looked thinner, her usual gloss replaced by exhaustion. "You came," she whispered, as if she hadn't expected it. "Where's Mom?" I asked. She stepped aside. The house smelled different. Stale, almost chemical, like old perfume masking something worse. Mom was in her recliner, oxygen tubes in her nose, her hands trembling over a blanket I didn't recognize. She turned her head slowly, her eyes wet. "Felicia," she said, my name broke in half in her mouth. "I got your message," I said. Her brow furrowed. "Message?" I froze. "The photo you sent, the one that said help." She blinked, confusion swimming across her face. "I didn't send anything." Behind me, Tessa shifted. The floor creaked. My pulse quickened. "Then who—" A loud crash interrupted me. Upstairs, a door slamming. My heart jumped into my throat. Tessa ran to the staircase. "Savannah!" she yelled. "I told you not to go through my room!" The name hit me like a cold slap. Savannah. The younger sister I hadn't spoken to since the night she pawned Dad's watch and lied about it. The one who had texted me once, 2 years ago, asking for a small loan until payday. I hadn't replied. I followed Tessa up the stairs, ignoring her protests. The hallway was dim, the wallpaper curling at the edges. A door was half open at the end. Inside, Savannah sat cross-legged on the floor surrounded by boxes, old photo albums, insurance letters, Dad's files. Her eyes darted to me, then to the envelope in her hands. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Finding the truth," she said quietly. "What truth?" She held up a sheet of paper. The truth about Dad's insurance. About why we never saw the rest of the money. I glanced at Tessa, who went pale. "We used it," she stammered. "You know that?" Savannah shook her head. "No, you used half. The other half?" She turned the paper toward me. A withdrawal form. My mother's signature. But next to it, another name. One I hadn't seen in years. Pastor Williams. The letters blurred as anger and disbelief fought for space in my chest. Why would Mom transfer money to him? Tessa looked away. "You wouldn't understand. Try me," she bit her lip. "He said it was a trust fund. For Mom's care. For emergencies." "Then why didn't it go to her?" No one answered. I took the form from Savannah and scanned the fine print. The signature was real, but the witness line was signed T. Carter. Tessa's old last name. The room tilted. "You helped him?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. I stepped back, nausea rising. "You lied about everything. About the bills, the house, even Dad's money. "Felicia, please," she said, voice breaking. "He said it was an investment. He promised returns, said it would double." "Who does that with their mother's care fund?" I shouted. My voice cracked, the sound bouncing off the walls like something wild. "Downstairs," Mom called out weakly. I went to her, my breath ragged. "Did you know?" I asked. She looked at me with tears glistening in the corners of her eyes. "I trusted him. He said it was God's plan." Something inside me snapped, not in rage but in grief. Not for the money, but for how easily faith had been weaponized in our family. That night, I stayed. Not because they deserved it, but because leaving again felt impossible without answers. Tessa slept in the guest room. Savannah sat by Mom's side. I couldn't sleep, the paper burning in my mind like an unhealed wound. At 2 a.m., I heard voices. I crept down the hall and paused outside the living room. "She'll ruin everything if she finds out," Tessa whispered. "She already knows," Savannah replied. "She doesn't know about the rest." My stomach dropped. The rest? The next morning, I found another envelope slipped under my bedroom door. Inside was a USB drive and a note that read, "If you want the truth, plug it in." I hesitated for hours before doing it. When I finally inserted it into my laptop, a video opened. Security footage. Grainy. It showed Pastor Williams at the bank, signing the withdrawal forms, pocketing the cash. But the date stamp made my blood run cold. 2 days after my father's funeral. The camera panned as he turned away, and there she was. My mother, smiling. The screen froze on her face, the timestamp glowing in the corner like an accusation. I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. That night, when I confronted her, she didn't deny it. "Your father wanted us to be taken care of," she said softly. "He didn't trust you with it." "Because he thought I'd waste it?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Because he knew you'd leave." Her words sliced deeper than I expected. Maybe because they were true once, but I'd stayed, longer than anyone should have. The next few days blurred into arguments, old wounds ripped open, truths dragged from corners we'd all avoided. I discovered that Tessa had mortgaged the house a second time to pay off debts. That Mom had known. That Savannah had recorded the video, hoping to expose them but afraid to send it. The truth, once freed, devoured everything. When Pastor Williams was arrested weeks later for fraud and embezzlement, our names were mentioned in the local paper, family at the center of charity scandal. It should have felt like justice, but it felt more like shame wearing the wrong mask. Mom stopped speaking to me. Tessa moved out of state. Savannah stayed, trying to rebuild something from the rubble. I sold the house, not out of revenge, but to end its ghostly hold on us. Watching it empty felt like watching a body finally exhale after years of pain. Months passed. I started a new job in Knoxville. I bought my own place, a small bungalow with soft yellow walls and a porch swing that creaked in rhythm with the wind. I planted flowers that didn't demand much. Dahlias, lavender black-eyed Susans. Sometimes, at night, I'd hear the faint sound of wind chimes and wonder if the old house still remembered me. One morning, I found a letter slipped under my door. No return address, no handwriting I recognized. Inside was a single line, "Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's freedom, no signature." But I knew who it was from. I placed the letter in my journal next to Dad's old photograph. For the first time in years, the weight in my chest felt lighter. The past hadn't disappeared. It never would. But it no longer owned me. When I saw Savannah months later at the market, she smiled, a real unguarded smile. "I'm proud of you," she said. I believed her. Life didn't tie itself neatly. It never does. But sometimes, closure isn't an ending. It's choosing not to reopen the door. As I sat on my porch that evening, the sky bruised with sunset, I whispered to the memory of my father, to the girl I used to be, to the ghosts that finally lost their power. "I did it, Dad," I said. "I came home, and this time I didn't lose myself to save them." The wind carried the words away, soft and certain. And for the first time, home didn't hurt. It had been 3 months since the courtroom lights dimmed behind me. 3 months since my name stopped echoing in headlines. 3 months since I last heard from the people who used to call themselves my family. For the first time in years, silence didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like oxygen. My mornings began with the same routine. Coffee. Walk to the garden Daniel and I had planted together. Check the roses that somehow kept blooming even when I didn't. Some days I talked to him, out loud, like he was still there. Maybe he was. I liked to think the wind that brushed my cheek was his answer. Then the letters started. At first I thought it was junk mail. Plain white envelopes slipped through the gate, no return address, my name printed in block letters. The first one held only a single photograph, my old house. Taken from the driveway, the windows dark, the curtains drawn. The next day, another arrived. The same house, same angle, but this time, a faint shadow in the upstairs window. A figure, watching. I told myself it was a prank, maybe some cruel curiosity left over from the trial. But then the third letter came. It wasn't a photo this time. It was a note, written in delicate handwriting I hadn't seen in years. We should talk. You deserve the truth. No signature. But I knew that script. My sister Evelyn. The last time I saw her, she had been standing behind my parents at Daniel's funeral, face pale, eyes downcast, saying nothing. She hadn't called after the will was read, not after the accusations, not after the humiliation. For months, I convinced myself she was just another silence to get used to. But the moment I saw her handwriting, something inside me shifted, fear, curiosity. Maybe a sliver of hope I didn't want to admit was still alive. That night, I couldn't sleep. The letter sat on my kitchen table, daring me to pick it up again. Every clock ticked louder. Every shadow in the hallway stretched longer. By midnight, I gave in. I dialed the number I had deleted 100 times, and still somehow remembered. She answered on the second ring. "Felicia," she whispered. My name trembled like it hadn't been spoken aloud in years. For a moment, neither of us breathed. "You shouldn't have written to me," I said finally. "I had to," she said. "There are things you don't know, things Daniel didn't tell you." Her words slid through me like ice. "Daniel's gone, Evelyn, and I know everything I need to know." "No," she said, her voice cracking. "You don't." She asked to meet in person. Against every instinct, I agreed. Maybe I needed to see her face when she lied. Maybe I needed to be sure. We met the next morning at a cafe on the edge of town. She was already there when I arrived. Smaller somehow, thinner. Her once perfect hair scraped back like she was trying to disappear. When she saw me, she stood but didn't smile. "You look different," she said softly. "You look desperate," I replied. Her lips trembled, but she didn't argue. She pushed an envelope across the table. Inside was another photograph. Daniel standing beside our family's lake house, smiling. The image was old, but something about it felt wrong. His eyes weren't just smiling. They were hiding something. "Where did you get this?" I asked. "From Dad's office," she said. After everything fell apart, I went through his files. There were letters between him and Daniel. Deals, meetings, things you were never supposed to see. My chest tightened. "What are you talking about?" Evelyn leaned closer. The inheritance, the land, the clinic, everything. It wasn't just Daniel's decision. Dad convinced him. There were conditions. And Daniel, he agreed. I shook my head. "No, Daniel would never." "He did," she said, cutting me off. "But later he tried to undo it. That's why things got bad between them. That's why the family turned on you. You think it was just greed? It was revenge, Felicia. Dad wanted you punished because Daniel betrayed him." Her words sank into me like quicksand. I wanted to believe she was lying. I wanted to walk away. But curiosity is a cruel disease. "What kind of deal?" I asked. She hesitated, glancing around the cafe before lowering her voice. "The house. The business. They were supposed to go back to the Colemans after 10 years of marriage. Daniel agreed to it before the wedding. But when he changed the deeds to include your name, he broke that deal. That's why Dad hired those men to forge the will after he died. He was just reclaiming what he thought was already his. My breath caught. The air seemed to shrink around us. You expect me to believe this? She looked me dead in the eye. I don't expect anything. I just thought you deserved to know the truth before it's too late. Before I could ask what she meant, she stood, tossed a few bills onto the table, and walked out. I sat there, staring at her empty cup, my mind spinning. Too late for what? That night, I drove to the lake house. I hadn't been there since Daniel's illness began. The driveway was overgrown, the air thick with the smell of wet pine. I parked, heart hammering. The house looked abandoned, but the porch light was on. Inside, dust coated everything. Daniel's old records still lined the shelf. Our wedding photo was still on the mantel, but something felt off. A faint hum echoed from the back room, like an electrical current or a device left running. I followed the sound to Daniel's old study. The lamp on his desk flickered, casting shadows across stacks of papers. There, in the middle of the desk, lay a recorder, the same one he had used for his messages. The same one from the USB drive. I pressed play. At first, static. Then Daniel's voice, faint but clear. If you're hearing this, Emily, no, Felicia, then you've come back. And if Evelyn has reached out to you, it means she found what I left behind. She thinks she knows everything, but she doesn't. None of them do. My hand trembled. His voice, alive, calm, deliberate, filled the room. I made mistakes, he continued. There were agreements I signed when I shouldn't have, debts I thought I could manage quietly. But the truth is, your father wasn't the only one I misjudged. Evelyn was involved too. My heart stopped. She helped them, Daniel said. She was the one who told them about the will changes. She wanted a share of the estate. I gave her money, hoping to keep her quiet. But she warned your father anyway. Everything that happened afterward, the forged will, the threats, it all started with her. The recorder clicked off. For a long moment, I couldn't move. The silence was louder than any sound. Evelyn, the sister who had begged me to meet, who had whispered apologies, who had claimed she wanted peace, was the reason it all began. I should have felt rage. I should have screamed, but all I felt was exhaustion. Betrayal is heaviest when it comes from the people you kept forgiving. When I left the lake house, a car was parked at the end of the driveway. Evelyn stepped out, her expression unreadable. You found it, she said. Why? I asked, my voice barely carried. Why do all this? Her eyes glistened. Because you had everything. The house, the name, his love. I was the one who stayed behind, cleaning up their messes, taking their blame. I just wanted my part. Your part, I whispered. You destroyed everything for your part? She took a step closer. You don't understand. A chasm of everything we'd lost. Then she whispered, I'm sorry, and walked into the darkness. I thought that was the end. But the next morning, I woke to sirens outside my house. A car had gone off the highway, down near the lake. A woman's body was pulled from the wreck. It was Evelyn. The police called it an accident. I wasn't sure I believed them. A week later, I sat in Daniel's study again, the recorder in my hands. I played it one last time just to hear his voice. Felicia, he said, if you ever doubt yourself, remember this. The truth doesn't save us. It tests us. But surviving it means you've already won. I closed my eyes, the weight of everything pressing down and somehow lifting at once. The lies were gone, the secrets buried, the house finally silent. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, soft and steady. Somewhere beyond the stillness, I thought I heard him again. Daniel's voice, carried through the leaves. Let it go, it whispered. And for the first time since he died, I did. It had been 40 days since Evelyn's accident. The world had already moved on, but I hadn't. Grief has a strange rhythm. It doesn't march forward. It circles back, retracing the same pain until it becomes almost familiar. I thought I had closed every door that led to the past. But on the morning of her memorial, a package arrived. No return address, no name, just one word on the front, written in the same delicate script that haunted me. Felicia. Inside was a small wooden box, the same kind Daniel once kept on his desk, locked and dusted with years of neglect. Beneath it lay a single note. For when you're ready to see everything. There was a key taped to the corner. For hours, I didn't touch it. I walked the garden instead, tracing the same path Daniel and I used to take at dawn. The air felt heavy, the kind that carried memory instead of wind. Every corner of this place was soaked in ghosts. But as the sun began to fall, curiosity started its cruel whisper again. I sat at the kitchen table, turned the key, and lifted the lid. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Some of me and Daniel smiling, some of my family, but beneath those newer ones, photos I hadn't taken, photos I didn't know existed, Evelyn and Daniel, different dates, different places, meetings that couldn't have been coincidences, her hand brushing his arm in one, him looking away in another, the kind of pictures that made your heart stop, not because of what they showed, but because of what they implied. My chest constricted. I dropped the photos like they burned. At the bottom of the box was a small flash drive. No label. My fingers shook as I plugged it into the laptop. A folder popped up, videos, audio files, and one final message labeled simply, "If she finds out." Daniel's voice again, weaker this time, like it had been recorded near the end. "I knew this would come to you eventually," he began. "If Evelyn sent the box, it means she's gone, and it means she finally did what she couldn't bring herself to do while I was alive. Confess." He coughed, the sound raw. "I need you to understand something before you see the rest. Nothing between Evelyn and me was what it looked like. She came to me after your father threatened to disown her. She begged for help. I tried to protect her, Felicia, because she reminded me of the part of you I thought I'd broken. I thought if I could save her, I could save us." I leaned forward, heart pounding. "But she didn't want saving," he continued. "She wanted control, and when she realized I'd rewritten the will for you, she turned on me too. She recorded our meetings. She used them to convince your father I was unfaithful, to destroy what we had left. I tried to fix it. I failed. I should have told you everything, but I thought keeping you in the dark would protect you. It didn't. It only made you hate me sooner." His voice trembled. "If I could speak to you one last time, I'd say this. Don't let the truth become another cage. You've spent too long surviving their lies. It's time you live for something more than pain." The recording ended, leaving behind a silence that swallowed the room whole. I didn't cry. I couldn't. The truth wasn't freeing. It was heavy, messy, complicated, like love itself. That night, I sat by the fireplace, watching the flames dance over Daniel's words. The house was quiet, but the quiet wasn't empty anymore. It was full of memories I couldn't bury even if I tried. Then I heard it, a soft knock at the door. I froze. It was past midnight. No one came here this late. Another knock. Louder this time. I grabbed the flashlight and opened the door. A man stood there, rain dripping from his coat, face half hidden beneath a hood. "Felicia Coleman?" he asked. "Who's asking?" He pulled out a badge, Detective Alvarez. "We need to talk about your sister's death." I let him in, still gripping the flashlight. He stood by the mantel, eyes scanning the walls like the house itself was a witness. "We've been reviewing the accident footage," he said. "Something doesn't add up. The car's brake line was severed before it hit the lake. We found tool marks. Someone tampered with it." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. "You're saying it wasn't an accident?" He nodded. "No, it was deliberate. The question is, who had access to her car that night?" My throat went dry. "I don't know. She came to see me. We argued. She left. Anyone else know she was in town?" I shook my head. He studied me for a moment, then glanced at the box still open on the table. "What's that?" I hesitated. "Something she left me. Photos, files, can I see them? Part of me wanted to say no. But part of me, the part that had been lied to for years, wanted the truth to finally have an audience. I handed him the flash drive. He plugged it into his laptop. As the screen lit up, the files opened automatically. One video played, a security recording from a gas station. Evelyn standing beside her car, talking to someone in a black jacket. The person's face wasn't visible. "Wait," Alvarez said, zooming in. "That's not a stranger." He turned the screen toward me. It was my father, alive. My body went cold. "That's not possible. He died last year." Alvarez looked at me carefully. "Are you sure? Because this footage is dated 2 weeks ago." The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table to stay upright. Every piece of the puzzle I thought I had solved shattered all over again. After the detective left, I sat in darkness, the storm outside rattling the windows like fists on a coffin. My father alive, my sister dead, my husband recording messages from beyond the grave. There were no lines between the living and the dead anymore, only unfinished stories. I drove to the old family estate before dawn. The place was supposed to be sealed after the inheritance hearings, but the side gate was open. The house looked exactly as it had the night I left it. Curtains drawn, windows clouded, air thick with rot and secrets. In the study, the fireplace was lit. Someone had been here recently. And then I heard his voice. "Always the curious one," he said from behind me. I turned slowly. He stood there, older, frailer, but undeniably alive, my father, the man who had orchestrated everything, from Daniel's downfall to Evelyn's desperation. "You should be dead," I whispered. He smiled faintly. "Death is overrated. Sometimes you have to let the world think you've disappeared to start again." "Why?" I asked. "Why all of this? Why ruin everyone just to disappear?" He sighed, walking closer. "Because control was the only thing I ever had. And you were supposed to follow orders, not challenge them." My voice trembled. "Evelyn died because of you." He tilted his head. "She was weak. She thought she could betray me, so I removed the risk. Simple as that." The calm in his tone was worse than rage. It was the voice of a man who had stopped seeing other people as real. I stepped back. "You killed your own daughter," he shrugged. "Collateral damage." That was the moment something inside me broke for good. For years, I had believed silence was strength, that surviving was enough. But now, staring at the man who had burned his own blood for power, I understood. Some truths aren't meant to be carried. They're meant to be destroyed. When I left that house, I didn't call the police. I didn't tell Alvarez. I just walked into the dawn and kept walking until the estate was nothing but a shadow behind me. The next morning, the estate burned. The papers said it was electrical. I didn't correct them. Weeks passed, then months. The world grew quiet again. Sometimes at night, I replay Daniel's last message. Not because I want to relive it, but because it reminds me of what comes after endings, stillness, maybe even peace. I started volunteering at a youth shelter downtown, helping girls who reminded me of myself at their age, hopeful, naive, still believing family was something unbreakable. One of them, a quiet girl named Mia, asked me once, "Do you ever stop missing them?" I smiled sadly. "No, but you learn to live with the echoes." She nodded, like she understood more than she should have. And maybe that's the truth I needed all along. Grief doesn't end. It transforms. It reshapes the space inside you where love used to live and builds something new in its place. On the anniversary of Daniel's death, I went back to the lake. The water was still, almost glass-like. I brought one of his recordings with me, but I didn't play it. I didn't need to. I whispered instead. I kept my promise. I lived. The wind stirred. A single petal from the garden roses floated past and landed in the water, drifting away. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe it was him. I didn't care which. Because for the first time in years, I didn't need answers. The story was finally mine to end.